Good evening, everyone. I think it's time to start in order not to utilize any more of your afternoon later of this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us and for giving us the opportunity to discuss with you, to present with you some of the updates that came the last 2 years on the European policy that we believe that it's going to be really a case and will really affect or enhance, I would say, the energy communities. But this will be discussed later on in the panel as well. Let's start a little bit with our housekeeping rules. First of all, it's good to say that by registering and participating to this event, you have already given your consent to collect your personal information according to the GDPR. If you want to withdraw this consent, you can just send an email to me. Please keep in mind that we are going to invite you in some further webinars that are going to come up later on under the CLR initiative, as this initiative is a pretty big one, as our lovely project officer is going to explain in a little bit. A lot of webinars are going to take place, interesting one, I would say, which we would love to have your contribution, your participation as well. Please note that the event is recorded. If you don't wish to appear on the camera, please keep your camera shuttered. And please keep your microphones muted unless you are invited to speak by the moderator. In the end of our today's event, we are going to have a Q&A session when you are going to have the ability maybe to provide some questions really fast. And at the end, the most important, all the material is going to be shared with you together with some key statements from the panel discussion that's coming. Let's start a little brief with the agenda. Following me, it's going to, as I already said, to have our lovely project officer, Julian Tammy, from the European Commission DG Energy, and then to present us, in general, in a brief, the CLR Renovation Initiative and what this initiative is concerned. Then we are going to have 2 sessions. The first session is going to be on the recent EU policy updates. As we noticed that the last 2 years, 2023 and 2024, a lot of policy has been modified, a lot of amendment came to the different directives that are really affecting our everyday conditions, I would say, and living conditions. We believe that energy communities are going to be benefit from this, and we are going to see by our experts how they are going to benefit the energy communities. Then we are going to have the second session, which is about the energy communities as an ESCO model, which is a really impressive and innovative, I would say, financial model that is existing nowadays, which is assisting a lot the customers, the energy community in the case, in order to do some real energy innovation or energy initiatives in general. Last one, we're going to have the panel discussion moderated by Jan Bormans, our project coordinator, who is going to emphasize a little bit on the CLR innovation itself and how it is connected with the ESCOs. Are they having complementary pathways or they are just 2 independent models? If we're having time in the end, for sure we are going to have the Q&A session, so please feel free to provide us with the questions in the chat in order for us to be able to answer them. If we will not have any time to respond to your question, for sure, we're going to discuss it with you via emails. We're going to send you an email, answer your questions, or for sure you can find us via email in order to discuss any further questions that we're having. Thank you very much again for having you here. And now we'll pass the floor to Julian Tammy, the project officer that we are having from the DG Energy from the European Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Stavros, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope you hear me well.
Quickly, yeah.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Thanks. I will share my screen for the presentation that I made today. I will put it also in. Yeah. So now I hope you see it correctly. If you
looking good.
Okay, thanks. So welcome again today, and as Stavros mentioned, my name is Julien Tamy. I work at DG Energy in the service dealing with the energy performance of building directive, and we have been tasked by the European Parliament a few years ago to implement the citizen-led renovation initiative on behalf of the Parliament, and they dedicated us some budget, and this is why we launched this this initiative that I will present you today, and also a few other related initiatives of citizen-led renovation. I'm sorry, because maybe for some people in the audience this is already familiar, because either you are already contributing, participating in the initiative, or you are following it. But just as a reminder, the idea of the what is citizen renovation, it is based on several thoughts and assumptions. That first, the idea is to put the citizens in the driver's seat of the renovation. There are some assumptions, and that we are currently testing with these initiatives, that people might be stronger motivated when they feel free to act, and when it's not something imposed by local authorities or by regulatory means, but it is something really that it's come from a strong motivation from their own. And also another assumption is that can be further motivated, or the motivation can even be stronger when they see others doing things, and that they also do things together. So there are several phases. I will explain a bit the several phases, but with the first one ended in December 24. We explored with our colleagues from the consortium various interpretations of the concept. But the main idea, as you see in the bottom of the slide, is that the idea is that citizen-led renovation really emerged from groups of citizens as bottom-up initiatives, as I said, and it builds on the notions of open and voluntary participation and effective control. So here you have also a sense on which group will. So the idea is that group of citizens themselves, people living in the same condominium, in the same neighborhood, will engage into renovation. And one of the entity that we use for to drive this concept is energy communities. It's not only energy communities, but it's one of the entity that could be the vehicle for this citizen-led renovation. And you will see in the various phases that we relied on energy communities, but of course not exclusively. So very briefly, the first phase that ended in December 24 supported 4 pilots that you see on the left, one in Ireland, Portugal, Belgium, and Bulgaria. And then you have small, limited ecosystem for the moment, with lighthouses, followers, that are entities that are not the pilots, but still are involved in the initiative. And you see on the right the assistance that was provided by the initiative to these 4 pilots in terms of financial barriers, in terms of legal barriers, or technical barriers, or informational barriers. So really to support these 4 pilots, to engage with the members, to support them, to motivate them to engage into renovation. Then a second phase is started last year, and it was expanded to more pilots. So you see 6 pilots on the right, and I'm delighted to see that we have some present today, and that maybe also will present later. And you see the community of associated initiatives or entities as learners and followers is also growing. So just to step back also, why we have this structure in phases. Say, why didn't you do something comprehensive from the start? It's a good point, but unfortunately, this is how it's a bit the bureaucratic machinery of sometimes public contracting authority, like the European Commission, that the budget were dedicated not entirely, but in several phases. So each time we had to launch a new procedure to recruit these pilots and the contractors who support us in this initiative. So this is why it's split like that. Then we thought now we will have a third phase with a bigger budget and say, okay, maybe it's time to reflect a bit and also to upscale the approach to see how we can make the concept a bit more how can I say, horizontal or not supporting pilots directly. So this is why we reflected last year before we launched this new phase, and we discussed and decided to shift the support to what we call the enabling entities. And for us, the enabling entities or enablers are structures aiming at delivering support services and enabling conditions to new or existing energy communities. So again, energy communities, but not only. It's on the slide, but if we find entities that organizations that have the same criteria of openness and inclusiveness of energy communities, we can support them to target energy renovation. So the idea was to shift support from the direct pilot on the ground, to these intermediate structures that in their turn will support pilot on the ground. And the enabling entities, we propose that they are selected among it can be a network or umbrella association of energy communities, or at the regional level, for instance, one-stop shops, energy agencies, national, but also local and regional. It can be also local authorities, or it can be NGOs or other kind of, but really something on the ground, not necessarily something in Brussels. This is what the idea, because renovation is a local activity. It's localized, it's regionalized. So we prefer a local approach than EU-wide initiative, because renovation is really subject to the architecture, to the climatic conditions, to the cultural environment where it takes place. So this was the rationale for this approach. So CLR 3 started in January with 5 enabling entities that you see on the screen. They are mostly energy agencies, local energy agencies, and you see them on the screen. Important to know that there will be a call to select 5 more enabling entities. It will be launched very soon. So also this is a call for you, for your network. Stay tuned. There is the website, probably at some point in this webinar, the website of the initiative will be communicated. So you can remain informed about the launching of the call, which will happen, which will take place quite soon. So now coming back to phase 1, which ended, there were some main lessons learned from these first phases, that it's important to increase awareness among energy communities, and beyond, among pilots and beyond. So in a sense, and this is linked also to the second point, which is target underserved groups. So it was identified, but this is not, I would say, typical to citizen renovation. It was observed that people engaging in renovation are often people of a certain category, of social category, economic category, I would say middle income, not relatively young, I would say, and also you have also some kind of focus sometimes on gender. Maybe it's sometimes a bit male are more represented. So the idea was that citizen-led renovation could a bit go beyond this traditional target of renovation or renovation schemes or renovation funding schemes to be a bit more inclusive. So, of course, from a moral point of view, first that we do need to be inclusive, but also from an efficiency point of view, because the idea here is that citizen renovation will support what we call the renovation wave. You know that the building stock is very old in Europe, and if we want to be on track on our climate objective, we need really to upscale the level of renovation. So all this initiative is also to support the upscaling and the rollout of renovation all across Europe. So the idea would be that citizen renovation would support this by going beyond the traditional groups of that are interested by renovation. The third point is to strengthen the complementarity between citizen-led renovation and one-stop shops, so that the citizen-led renovation initiatives can act as one-stop shops. And you may know that in the DIT, the EPBD, which my service is managing, there is now requirements that one-stop shops are deployed across the territory. So there are countries where these one-stop shops, these technical assistance facilities, are not yet developed. So maybe CLR and energy communities can play a role in that respect. Then you have also the question of funding, and also to ensure that this assistance, not only the funding for renovation itself, but also the funding for the citizen renovation in assisting people. So how to find business models to ensure that this activity of service is sustainable and can be implemented without public money or with less public money, I would say. Then you have the question of how to improve eligibility criteria, which kind of pilot we can support, which kind of entities we can support. And one also lesson that emerged from the phase one was the question of liability, because sometimes people think that citizen-led renovation in a sense of do it yourself. So you will, for instance, do the works yourself or with limited contractor support. But here you may have some liability issues. Of course, if you are not qualified or if you don't have strong knowledge, what happens if something goes wrong? So this were a bit the main lesson learned that emerged from phase one, and the idea now is with phase two and also phase three, which we're starting, is to test how to address this lesson learned, and also or these findings, I would say, more than lesson learned findings, and how also citizen renovation can fill the gap, because these findings are also common to. Can also be common or similar to standard renovation. It's not new. So our ideas would be to see how citizen renovation can address this and can fill the gap of the standard renovation. And this is why we will test maybe new approaches or explore more activities in CLR 2 and 3. So the first point is, as I said, that we want to go beyond the standard groups of addressed by renovation. So we will explore how to have more inclusive communities and approaches to reach out to different communities with more diverse social groups, and also design the outreach strategy, and that is not only directed to homeowners but also to the entire community or to communities that live in an area. It can be also that the citizen-led renovation can be also addressed not only to homeowners and to residential building, but it can be also to public buildings or sport facilities or schools, for instance, which is used by a community, but it's not owned by a community, and maybe the community could get engaged as a community because they are used this facility to help and support for its renovation. We would like to also explore joint renovation and group purchase whenever possible. Again, there is liability issues, there is a lot of issues there, but we can also test this idea. We would like also to test the district and neighborhood approach, or what we call integrated renovation programs, in a sense that sometimes you have a neighborhood in some cities that are very much similar in terms of architecture and characteristics. So there is an idea here to upscale again, still with this notion of upscale and massified renovation. So maybe there is economies of scale through purchase, through permitting that could be explored. And we want also to further explore the one-stop shop role of citizen-led renovation, how they can also be not only one-stop shop and technical assistance facility for their members, but also beyond their member in an open and inclusive approach, I would say. So now I have two final slides. I changed a bit the subject while I go a bit beyond. I just wanted to present you some initiatives that are related to this to citizen-led renovation and energy communities more broadly. It's first the citizen energy package, which is supposed to be, I think, normally a recommendation or a communication from the Commission that will be released in the second half of 2025. It will help to deliver the Affordable Energy Action Plan, and the Clean Industrial Deal. By the way, if you go to the Affordable Energy Action Plan, there is a specific section on the Citizen Energy Package. You will see it's public, it's online. You can Google this and you will find it. And the idea is to enable consumers and communities to benefit from lower energy costs and better energy services. It's to enhance the principle of a just transition and also supporting the transition in core regions. And finally, it will build consumer trust and engagement in the energy transition. All this is not new, but it's strengthened with this package. It's also the idea that energy in Europe now is not very affordable in a sense, and the whole package will target this, and also to in an idea to contribute to the reduction of energy poverty. Finally, wanted to make a slide because maybe it's interesting for the audience on what assistance exists for energy communities. And you see on the screen on the left, this is the Citizen Renovation Initiative that that I've just presented. You have also the Citizen Energy Advisory Hub, which is also managed by DGNR, and you can Google it if you need more information, or you can just write us, and I will redirect you towards the relevant resources on that. And then there is also the Energy Communities Facility. This is grant support from Life Clean Energy Transition, and there will be the first call in June 25. Again, if you go, this is managed by our colleagues from CINEA, the Green Deal Agency. If you Google it on their website, you may find more information, and probably there are also info days online that you can follow to have more information. And there is also final possibility on the right of the slide. It's energy communities in the Western Balkan with the pilot action from DG Regio. So voila, in a nutshell, this is what I wanted to present you today, and of course we will discuss later in the plenary or in the panel. And thanks, Stavros, back to you.
Thank you very, very much, Julian, for providing us pretty up-to-date information. For example, the action plan that you mentioned was really launched end of February, so it's quite new, I would say. Now I would like to give the floor to our three experts in order to mention the recent EU policy updates that came up, and more specifically to Sofia Natalia Boemi from the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, to Clemens Meyer from Joannem Research, and of course to Dimitris Athanasiou from IECP. Natalia, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me here and for providing me with the opportunity to present the current legislation about energy efficiency and what it concerns the CLR. So let me start with sharing my screen. Okay, so as I already told you, I will discuss about the energy. I will present the Energy Efficiency Directive, which was you know about the CLR, and you will hear more about from Clemens, which is the next speaker, about and you have already heard about Julian for what it concerns the CLR. So let me be brief, and let me start by introducing the Energy Efficiency Directive, which in my opinion is the most important directive because it concerns energy in general. So the Energy Efficiency Directive was initially adopted in 2012 to help the EU and its member states to achieve energy efficiency improvements of at least 20% by 2020. The directive set an energy efficiency consumption cap for the EU with specific provisions to guide member states towards meeting this target. In 2018, the EED underwent its first revision, increasing the energy efficiency target by 32.5% by 2030, alongside a requirement for member states to increase their annual energy savings obligations to 0.8%. And as part of the Fit for 55 package, the EED was revised. A new proposal was released on the 14th of July 2021. And it was that new revision was aligned with the Green Deal, overarching goal for reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 55% by 2030. So that was aligned with the needs for a more ambitious and a more accelerated energy efficiency measures in order to become more evident and to be under the new Green Deal umbrella of the EU. So in the end, we have the 2023 revision of the EED. This updated directive establishes a more ambitious targets and a stronger legal framework to achieve the EU's long-term climate and energy goals, focusing on comprehensive energy savings, reductions in energy consumption, and sustainable energy usage across all sectors. So based on that, the new EED is a key legislation, as already mentioned, because it set the overall framework to deliver energy savings across the European Union. So what's new in the new EED? The new EED sets the 2030 EU energy efficiency target and a series of measures that constitutes to its achievement. It has a mandatory assessment of energy efficiency solutions, which is quite new. It appoints a responsible entity to supervise the application of the energy efficiency first principle, which is something also new, and it will be quite difficult for the member states to implement, and we will see that afterwards. And it apply and promote and make publicly available cost-benefit methodologies for any kind of adoption of energy solutions at the member state level. So what are the key articles that also concern the CLR? The key article is the Article 3, which is the energy efficiency first principle, which is something quite new and quite important to mention, and I would like to describe that later on. It's the Article 4 for the 23 energy efficiency target, the Articles 5 and 6, which mention the exemplary role of the public sector, the Article 8 about the energy savings obligation, the Article 22, which is quite important for the CLR, for the citizen-led renovation initiatives and for the energy communities, because it concerns information and awareness, and in fact, it states the important role of the community-led initiatives and the energy communities, and the Articles 23 and 24, which mentions about the partnerships for energy efficiency and network empowerment. So let me start with the Article 3, which is the energy efficiency first principle. In fact, in the new EED, there are many definitions about what is energy, what's an energy efficiency, what is energy efficiency first. So according to the energy efficiency first principle, that principle suggests that energy efficiency improvements and other demand-side resources need to be selected whenever they are most cost-effective than equivalent power plants, transmission networks, storage systems, and other supply-side infrastructures. It also ensures that cost-benefit analyses are publicly available and cost-benefit methodologies that allow proper assessment of the wider benefits of energy efficiency solutions will take into account the entire life cycle and long-term perspective from the societal, health, economic, and climate neutrality perspectives to our roadmap towards climate neutrality. It also identifies the entities responsible for monitoring the application for energy efficiency first, and also that monitoring should be included at the NCEPs, the National Energy and Climate Plans, which is something that should be included in all the member states. And even though they are updated at the moment, some of them they are updated at the moment, it should be included at the next stage. So about Article 4, which also has the energy efficiency first, it states that the member states shall collectively ensure a reduction of energy consumption of at least 11.7% in 2030 compared to the projections of the 2030 of EU reference scenario, so that the Union final energy consumption amounts to no more than 76.3 MTOE. And each member state shall set an indicative national energy efficiency contribution based on the final energy consumption to meet. So in fact, for the first time, the European efficiency policy targets the final energy consumption, and in fact, those targets are binding. So However, the EU target for the primary energy and the national contribution for both primary and final energy remain indicative. There is a binding target for the final energy consumption, which is really important, and it should be stated in all member states. In fact, for example, in Greece, until now, the target for the energy consumption is focusing on the primary energy consumption. So many things should change based on that new directive that will should be enforced into national legislation 2025. About Article 5 and 6, that states the role of the public sector and the energy efficiency and the role of the public buildings. It mentions that the member states shall ensure that the total final energy consumption of all public bodies combined is reduced by at least 1.9% each year when compared to 2021. And also that each member state shall ensure that at least 3% of the total floor area of heated and cooled buildings that are owned by public bodies is renovated each year. That is aligned with the renovation wave. And we will see more things about that from Mitris later on, that he will present the EPPD recast. So about Article 8, which mentions the energy saving obligations, the ESCOs, it mentions that the new savings for each year from 1st January to 2014 to 31 December 2020 of 1.5% of final energy sales to final customers by volume average over the most recent 3-year period preceding from 1 January 2013. The new savings each year from the 1st January of 2021 to 31 December 2030, there are specific targets that starts from 0.1% to 1.3% from 2024 to 2026, 1.5% from 26 to 28, and 1.9% from 28 to 2030. So also the new EED introduces a new requirement that a share of energy savings is achieved with measures targeting energy poverty, low-income households, and vulnerable consumers, so to help them benefit from the transition. So based on that article, it also states how important is the role of the energy communities. And also I think that Tammy mentioned it also before, that the role of energy communities, it's important, and we will see it afterwards also in the new calls. So according to the new EED recast, mandates the member states to consider and promote the role of renewable energy communities and citizen energy communities for the implementation and design of the obligation schemes and policy measures to achieve the ESCOs objective. To support these initiatives is therefore recognized as an eligible policy measures, and the resulting energy savings from citizens' participation in energy communities can be counted towards the Article 8 yearly objective, provided that these savings are in line with other requirements of the directive. And concluding, because I don't want to waste more of your time, the EED is providing a common EU definition for energy and energy saving solutions. It requests qualitative assessments with integrated energy modeling that lay on the basis for long-term decisions under uncertainties. By joining consideration the evolutions of demand supply side system, it paves the way for integrated energy plans. And the EED, with the energy efficiency first principle, is bridging the gap between the singles investors and the society viewpoint. And here you can see a quite interesting infographic from one project, which is called Renovation. And also I would like to introduce a tool that you can use for any kind of planning based on the EED, which is called the Regio First Planning Framework. So thank you very much for your attention. Stavros, the floor is yours.
Without wasting, thank you very, very much, Natalia, for providing us all these updates that came up in 2023 and 2024. Now, without wasting any more time, I will pass the floor to Clemens.
Yes, good afternoon from my side. I'm Clemens from Uranium Research, and I will give you a rough overview about the basic EU policy framework on energy communities. Why energy communities are relevant for citizen-led renovation. So CLR focuses on the empowerment of energy communities to put citizens in the driver's seat for energy renovation projects. This means that CLR aims to use the engagement power of energy communities to increase the energy efficiency of buildings. And in our CLR project, as already outlined before, energy communities are supported to set up the renovation support for their members. And that's why the legal framework of energy communities is central to citizen-led renovation, of course. So what are energy communities and what is the legal framework of it? Energy communities are citizen-led initiatives that enable individuals, businesses, and local authorities to participate in energy production, consumption, sharing, and also other energy services. They aim to empower the citizens to participate in the clean energy transition. And the Clean Energy for All Europeans package in 2019 first introduced the concept of energy communities. So the Electricity Market Directive introduced and defined the citizen energy communities, and the Renewable Energy Directive defined the renewable energy communities. And in general, the Clean Energy Package shifts the role of citizens from just passive consumers to active participants in the energy transition. And now I will quickly outline the main CLR-related provisions of the Electricity Market Directive and the Renewable Energy Directive. So the Electricity Market Directive in general aims to create a competitive, consumer-centered and flexible electricity market in the EU. It establishes common rules for the electricity market, promoting competition, consumer rights, renewable energy integration, and a more flexible, decentralized energy across the European Union. It enables active participation in energy markets. It enhances the role of aggregators and introduces dynamic electricity tariffs. And important for us, it defines citizen energy communities and provides the legal provisions of citizen energy communities. And for CLR, mainly relevant are Article 2, which defines the citizen energy communities, Article 15, which defines the rights and obligations of active consumers. Article 15a defines the right to energy sharing, and this was added with the amendment in 2024. And Article 16 provides the legal provisions for citizen energy communities. So according to Article 211, citizen energy communities are legal entities that are based on voluntary participation and controlled by natural persons, local authorities, or small enterprises. The primary purpose of energy communities is to provide environmental, economic, or social benefits rather than just financial profit. And citizen energy communities may engage in generation, distribution, supply, consumption, aggregation, storage, but also energy efficiency services and or even other energy services. So this, for CLR relevant is of course the energy efficiency services. So, yeah. Article 16 provides then the legal provisions of citizen energy communities. Some member states shall provide an enabling regulatory framework, which contains provisions on participation, rights and obligations as households or active consumers, also fair compensation and transparent procedures. And the member states must secure certain rights of energy communities. So energy communities must have access to electricity markets, and they must be treated like active customers in accordance with Article 15, which I will outline on the next slide. So Article 15 defines the rights and obligations of the active consumers. So active consumers have the right to operate directly or through aggregators, to sell self-generated electricity and participate in flexibility and energy efficiency programs. And also Article 15 also emphasizes and supports the collective participation through groups of active customers. So also energy communities should be entitled as active customers. And then what is new in this directive? So Article 15a establishes the right to energy sharing for active customers. So with this article, the energy sharing part is even more emphasized. So this was added with an amendment in 2024. And member states shall ensure that all households, small enterprises, and public bodies have the right to participate in energy sharing as active customers. And again, important, in a non-discriminatory manner. Okay, then Renewable Energy Directive. The Renewable Energy Directive in general establishes the framework for renewable energy in the European Union. It sets the binding targets for member states to increase their share of renewable energy. It aims to accelerate the adoption of renewable energy across the EU. In general, it aims for 42.5% renewables in the energy mix by 2030. It emphasizes consumer empowerment and allowing for energy sharing and self-consumption. And for us important, it defines the renewable energy communities. So for CLR, the key articles are Article 2, the definition, and Article 22, which provides the legal provisions for renewable energy communities. So according to Article 2:16, renewable energy communities are legal entities that are, again, based on voluntary participation and effectively controlled by shareholders or members that are located in the proximity of the renewable energy projects. So that's the main difference to citizen energy communities, or one of the differences, that the members must be located in the near proximity of the renewable energy projects that are owned by them. The rest is similar, so shareholders or members are natural persons, small, medium enterprises or local authorities, including municipalities. And the primary purpose, again, is to provide environmental, economic, or social community benefits rather than financial profit. Article 22 provides the legal provisions for renewable energy communities. So it establishes a number of rights and obligations. Member states shall assess the existing barriers and provide an enabling framework. Final customers must be entitled to participate RECs, and RECs are entitled to produce, consume, store, and sell renewable energy. And important, RECs are also entitled to access all suitable energy markets, so both directly through aggregation or directly. Transposition of energy communities related provisions. So the transposition is up to member states, and this leads to heterogeneous regulatory approaches in different member states. There are different supporting financial mechanisms, so local grid tariff reductions or direct subsidies. There are different regulatory limitations regarding size, location, membership, or proximity. And there are also different states of transpositions. So some member states have fully integrated the relevant provisions, and some are still at various stages. To summarize, so the EMD and the RED provides the definitions and legal provisions for citizen energy communities and renewable energy communities. They enable energy communities to operate across the energy sector and participate in a number of different activities. The EMD amendment enhances energy sharing rights and simplifies the participation in also flexibility markets. The RED 3 increases the renewable energy targets, and thereby encouraging even more community-led projects. And finally, in general, we can say that the new policies strengthens the role of energy communities and also provide new opportunities and business models for citizen-led renovation. So, for example, energy communities could act on flexibility markets, could include storages to their business model, and thereby increase profitability. So new business models arise from those new regulations. Yeah, thank you. That was my quick overview about the regulatory framework of energy communities.
Thank you very, very much, Clemens. Indeed, it was pretty detailed. All the articles that you mentioned, I believe, was really of interest. Again, as I already said, everything is going to be shared with you in order for you to read it again, to understand a little bit more about what it said. And now I would like to give the floor to Dimitris Athanasiou in order to present us regarding the EPPD. Thank you.
Thank you, Stavros. Good afternoon, everybody. Very glad to be here with you and discuss about this interesting topic. Let me please share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Pretty clear, thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot. So I'm gonna try to briefly provide you the perspective of the energy performance of building directive. We have already discussed, and it was already well presented, the framework with regards to the energy communities, which is mostly addressed through the Energy Efficiency Directive, the Electricity Market Directive, and the Renewables Energy Directive. But since we are talking about renovations as well, I think that it is important to also see what is happening in the EPBD and the renovation wave, because actually it is the EPBD, the Energy Performance of Building Directive, that really focuses on increasing the energy performance of the building sector. And the main goal is to actually decarbonize the building stock by 2050 and increase the current low renovation rates in the EU, particularly for the worst performing buildings. So the EPPD is actually addressing both new and existing buildings. So for new buildings, the idea is to have a high efficiency standard. But for the real problem stands with the existing building stock, which is, as mentioned before, inefficient, and the current renovation rates are quite low, around 1.5%, and we really need to do something about it. I think the topic we're discussing today is very, very important because we really need to put citizens in the epicenter of the renovation actions. Legislation alone cannot actually guarantee that we are going to meet our goals for a decarbonized building stock. While when we talk about renovations that really involve citizens, really involve people, we need to find a way to incentivize them. In this initiative, the citizen-led renovation, together with the community approach, I think it's super important. The EPPD was recasted lately, last year, and the main objective of this revision was to make an extra effort to achieve a highly energy efficiency and decarbonized building stock, as I mentioned, but also to create a stable environment for investment decisions, including for citizens, and also enable consumer and business to make more informed choices to save energy and money. There are many, many new elements in the revised BPD that, I mean, I understand that we don't really have the time to go to each one of them. I will very, very briefly mention the minimum energy performance standards. This, I think, is going to be a game changer because it will more or less require worst performing buildings to be renovated. This is mostly for the non-residential buildings, but there are similar approaches for the residential sector. We have a new future standard for the buildings of the future to be zero emission buildings, and you know, updating a little bit the current nearly zero energy building, if you want, framework. The long-term renovation strategies will be transformed to building renovation plans, which is something more active, if you want, a specific action plan to be implemented at national level, and with a specific milestone and targets for the years to come. Then there are many other provisions that try to improve the energy performance certificates. They try to introduce the building renovation passports, try to make buildings solar ready, as there is a great solar potential in the roofs of buildings. A very important provision refers to the gradual phase out of fossil fuels boilers. And then there are many, of course, promotion of electromobility and sustainable mobility, as it also includes bicycles and things like that. And many provisions related to information financing, including for one-stop shops, but also for data collection and sharing. Now, with regards to CLR, into energy communities, the EPPD itself does not directly address the energy communities, but it refers a lot to district level and neighborhood approaches, which in my opinion is something similar. On top of that, there are specific articles and provisions that could be directly linked with CLR and energy communities. And I think that we should at least have a deeper look at Article 3 on National Building Renovation Plans, Article 11 for zero emission buildings, Article 17 on financial incentive skills and market barriers, and then Article 18 on one-stop shops and Article 29 on information. So I will try to be very quickly because, I mean, we don't have the time to go through the details. So the National Building Renovations Plan will replace the current framework for national long-term renovation strategies, and it will provide a very thorough and comprehensive roadmap with an overview of national building stocks, but also with specific targets and plans and policies and measures planned or implemented that could actually lead to a decarbonized building stock by 2050. Here, I think it is important to mention that there is an effort in these national building renovations plans to involve local and regional authorities and other socioeconomic partners, so that they all be involved in this building renovation plan. This can be achieved through a public consultation, but also through co-creation, if you want, collaboration framework with local and regional authorities. These plans are, there is also an annex to be annexed in this roadmap, in this new National Building Renovation Plan. And in this annex, we can see that there are specific references to the role of renewable energy communities and citizen energy community, as well as in district and neighborhood approaches. I think it is important, in my opinion, for member states to include pilot cases or good practices for this type of initiatives, like district renovation projects or neighborhood approaches or energy communities that led to renovation projects. It is important to include all this in the national building renovation plans as a pilot to further pave the way for a new wave of decarbonized districts. Then I think it is important to mention that with regards to the new standard for zero emission buildings, that can be applied both to new buildings but also for renovated buildings. There are specific, let's say, elements to be considered, including that the total annual primary energy use of such buildings should be covered, among others, by renewable energy provided by renewable energy community. Okay, it's not directly linked with our discussion about energy communities and renovation energy communities, but I think it is important because in many cases the renewable energy communities can also work together with citizens community. So it is important, in my opinion, to keep in mind that all this should be somehow combined. The directive, the EPPD, also builds a lot on providing the appropriate financing incentives and delivering the necessary investments. Otherwise, it won't happen. I mean, all this renovation wave cannot actually be implemented without financial incentives, but also, fiscal incentives and any other type of motivations that can be provided to everybody. I mean, to SMEs, to construction companies, but also to households and also to aggregation projects, including, as you can see here, in integrated district renovation programs. So I think that the CLR approaches should also be eligible for this type of financing. It is important also to mention that these incentives, these financial tips, should target as a priority vulnerable houses and people affected by energy poverty and people living in social housing. Julian mentioned before the role of one-stop shops, which is becoming more and more common in our days. And indeed, now there are specific requirements in the EPPD for national authorities or regional authorities or local authorities to start implementing specific one-stop shop with other specific criteria. For example, you can see per 80,000 inhabitants per region, but also in areas where the intention is to have integrated district renovation programs. So all this, in my opinion, is very relevant if we want to have this CLR or district or neighborhood approaches together and combined with the necessary information important to raise awareness, including for local and regional authorities and energy communities. Before I conclude, it is important to also mention the renovation wave, aiming to at least double the current low renovation rates. It was part of the European Green Deal and it came into force, let's say, in 2020. Here we can see that there are also synergies explored and promoted again with community district approaches. The renovation wave strategy makes specific reference to aggregating projects and positive energy districts. This is also something to be explored, as it can also be combined with citizen-led renovation. So yes, indeed, all this framework, the renovation wave framework, together with the revised EPPD and the new provisions stemming from the EED, the Renewables Directive, and many other instruments and initiatives, I think that they can really boost, really incentivize citizens to be engaged in the renovations, but also, create new business opportunity and business models. To conclude, as I said, the EPPD is actually working and promoting that tries to really boost the renovation of existing building stock, including for integrated district renovation programs. And it is important to say that all these are also in line with the current agenda for affordable housing and competitiveness in the construction sector, which is really important for the new Commission. As all these CLR and aggregation or renovation approaches can create the necessary demand for more renovations, can help increase the cost effectiveness of some renovations. For example, in cases that they could create the economy of scale needed, and it could motivate people to actually renovate. Sometimes, by you also you can also be convinced to renovate your apartment if you see that the whole neighborhood is actually doing so. It could unite and motivate people and communities. It could really transform entire neighborhoods, and there are many, many good examples that we can see on that. It can create new business opportunities, and it can really create a variety of solutions at a larger scale. So in some cases that some, let's say, measures are not cost effective, if aggregated with more buildings, then it can really be a game changer. As I mentioned, it is super important to have the necessary access to finance, information, and advisory tools, such as one-stop shops. And it is also important for member states to reflect exemplementary CLR projects in the National Building Renovation Plan. So that could be all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Dimitris. I think all of us knew a little bit more about the three, at least the three main legislative frameworks that are existing and have been amendment due to 2024 and 2023. It's always good to keep up with existing European policy that is going to affect each of the countries that either the energy community or regional local authorities are established to know exactly what is coming in order to well prepare themselves. And now, after mentioning and discussing about the policies, I believe it's a good time to mention something about the financial opportunities as well, and to discuss about the ESCO model, the ESCO company. It's a wide term that more and more nowadays we are hearing about this. And it's starting becoming a trend, I would say, as it is really an innovative that is in a lot of times, as we're going to see from the case studies as well, is really working. Let's start with a short intro. What is the ESCO? An ESCO is the acronym from Energy Service Company, and the role is to help customers in general to upgrade their facilities, including both energy efficiency upgrades and in general facility upgrades, for example, fix problems like installation, but as well as to accomplish these upgrades by providing an integrated package of services. What differentiates them is that an ESCO can pay for some or all of the cost of these updates with guaranteed energy savings. Keep in mind this one, please. In a sense of fact, an ESCO can act as project developers as they are integrating all the project stages, I would say, both in the design phase, the financing, the installation, and operation elements. Many schools and municipalities nowadays that are facing with aging facilities and limited resources to pay for upgrades and replacements are turned to ESCOs in order to seek for help and assistance. Next one. What projects, what typical retrofit projects the ESCO can help? There are different categories, as you can see from the slide, which will help the client with lighting upgrades, HV, AC replacements, building control, building management, energy monitoring, windows and roof replacement, and of course, other renewable energy sources, as for example, solar power or sustainable mobility. Here in the right, you may see a long list of services that an ESCO may offer. Keep in mind that a company might provide all, some, or even only one of these services and still can call themselves an ESCO. They are split in three main categories: the retail services, the energy market services, and the plant services. The first one, the retail, are all those required at the interface between the customer and the ESCO. In general, this category is including things like billing, meter reading, calculating and sending out bills, and chasing late payments. And for sure, it may also include taking into account the debt risk and the debt management. The energy market services is related to the management of the energy itself. This is generally a high cost and high competency area and can require specific attention from the ESCOs. It can include buying in fuel and electricity from the grid, holding contracts from exposed energy, and the interface to electricity markets. The last one, the plant services, is mostly related to the equipment itself, and this might include the designing, funding, and running plant. And this often seems to be what people have in mind when they are hearing the word ESCO, utilizing, for example, some resources, some already existing equipment that a company can bring without have to buy the equipment from the scratch. And the companies that are specialized in this area are frequently the equipment manufacturers, suppliers, and other similar categories. Let's see what the steps, what the ESCO steps in order to implement a project. First of all, they are starting with analyzing and auditing the customer's energy consumption and costs. Based on that information, then they are developing a decarbonization plan. After the decarbonization plan, the signature of an energy performance contract is taking place. And in this plan, the ESCO commits itself to assess a predetermined saving with which to cover the investment needed to achieve it. During the contract, the ESCO operates and maintains the whole equipment, as we mentioned previously, that it can be related an ESCO to an equipment as well. In action to reduce its consumption and its bill, the consumer for sure reduces the carbon footprint as well, which is fully aligned with all the European policy that we heard a little bit before. Lastly, the ESCO receives a portion of the money saved in the payment for the service rented, which I will make it a little bit clear, showing the graphical design. Sorry for the quality of this image, but I have not developed it. So in order to explain it a little bit, once we are trying to understanding a project, in order to reduce the energy cost, you need an invest that an event might cost from the ESCO. And during the project, the invest is somehow equal to the revenues of the ESCO and of course, the revenues to the consumer as well. But after the project, when the ESCO has finalized this project, then all the revenues is shifted to the revenues of the consumer. The ESCO starts by performing an analysis of the facility, designs an energy efficient solution, install the required elements, and maintain the system to ensure the energy savings during the payback period. Saving and energy costs are used to pay back the capital investment of approximately over a 5 to 20 years period, which some of the cases are usually reinvesting these profits into the building to allow for capital upgrades that in other cases may not be feasible. Keep in mind that if the project does not provide the returns or savings on the capital investments, as the ESCO has already signed the contract, the ESCO offer are responsible to pay back the difference. Lastly, the main difference between an ESCO and the other energy efficiency contractors that you have to take in mind is the graphical design down right, which is that the guarantee of energy savings, which is specified as part of the energy performance contract. The next slides are provided by the European Commission in order to update us and to inform us about the current and existing situation about the ESCOs. By 2022, there were only 113 organizations that use ESCO for a variety of use cases, with a minority of them being human resources management systems and providers, educational institutions, but the European institutions and bodies as well. Some DGs are actually acting as an ESCO, providing all the benefits that an ESCO is having. Next one. Regarding the distribution of ESCO implementers per sector, as we may see, the most and the biggest percentage is targeted by public sector, which and large organization mostly, holding the 35% approximately, with private second being second, with the small and medium-sized organizations holding the 27% approximately. Then again, the private sector, but the large organizations holding the third place with 13%, which is equal to the private sector startups. As you can see here, the startups are playing a pretty good and impressive role in the ESCOs, providing the same approach as well. And now how all these things are connected with a CLR. It is good in order to not to explain some terms and different stuff, to present a case study from an energy community that is acting as an ESCO as well. This energy community in the building shared in the Kazan Community House and the Golia Cooperative in the 8th district of Budapest, an energy community was created. This energy community is now acting as an ESCO, a community ESCO model in Hungary. A 36 kilowatt power solar panel system has been installed on the roof, and the income generated by its energy production will be used and is already used to form an energy community fund. It is planned to use the fund to make energy efficiency investments in the building. As we already mentioned, they can reinvest all the energy savings back to the building, which on the opposite side, it was not feasible. 2 community-led renovation projects in multi-apartment buildings have already been started, and in response to the energy crisis, the building energy consumption for heated was nearly halved through joint conservation measures. The community solar project was crowd-financed. And lastly, the Community Energy Facilitator Agency was established last year in order to roll out this model. And what is the summary? The summary is that the ESCO is a pretty impressive financial model that can assist, and the energy communities can benefit from this one, as they can really save the client's money, the customers' money, the energy communities' money. They can operate their facilities more efficient. This means that if an energy community is having or does not have specific facilities, approaching an ESCO is a pretty good solution. And last one, it for sure can protect our environment. Thank you very, very much. I tried to remain brief in order to leave the floor and a little bit more time to our next speakers, who are going to present to us the case studies, 2 impressive case studies. I would like first of all to start with Javier Avendaño from Dalcae. Javier, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Stavros. And thanks for the opportunity to share some business case. Let me present. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you may proceed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Dalcae here in Spain is a company who manage some savings and convert that savings in euros through a mechanism that it's called efficiency energy certificates. It's a system right now coming from direct of Europe that it's implanted in France, Italy, or UK right now, and it's try to dynamize the projects because we are gonna receive some money for your investment. So it's a mechanism which is gonna help, for example, ESCO project, as Stavros say. I'm not gonna stop in what is an ESCO because we already see it, and I could explain better. So in one offer of an ESCO, you have in one side the demand side energy service. You can get some energy supplies as photovoltaic, for example, as you heard before. And there is another point very important, the digital energy service, because in ESCO projects you normally include some steps from the easiest one to the more complicated, but you have to manage all your plant with analytics data or teleoperations, or if you go in through a way, maybe installing a microgrid. So the digital part in a ESCO project normally is very, very important because at the end of the day, you have to demonstrate the savings you are getting. So controlling and monitoring all that savings are very important. Normally, in one industrial plant, you have several projects you can develop, like obviously LED, solar photovoltaics, but also all the thermal projects like heat pumps or recovery heat. So normally here I have a slide just to explain more or less the energy savings you can get with each technology, like thermal grids in one rehabilitation of a building, or the energy management and monitoring. And now I'm going to explain a business case. One business case we developed 2 or 3 years ago in Mexico for AB InBev when I was working in Acciona Energy. And AB InBev is I think is the biggest company of manufacturing beer in the world, and they are in several countries, obviously. The project instead was a renovation of all the interior lighting in the biggest plant of AB InBev in the world. It was in Guadalajara, Jalisco. The duration, as Stavros said also, it was 5 years because you need some time to recover all the savings and pay all the investment, and obviously pay the maintenance, the OPEX. But more or less, this is the main numbers of the projects. Now they have a consumption of 2.4 terawatts, more or less, per year. And we, after replacement over 3,000 luminaries, we got a savings of almost 80%. And more or less the energy price was $111 per megawatts, and the cost of the energetic and the maintenance was over $2,000 per year, more or less. This is simple, the technical economical proposal, because we have to get an inventory of all the lines you have to change, and the solution you are going to offer. This is the planning of the execution. Since we signed the contract in March 2023 until we finished the installation, it was in August 2023, so it was no more than 6 months. And after that, you have to operate the plant until you finish the contract. This is a very simple schedule also of the CAPEX and the OPEX. The CAPEX is the investment you have to do it. You can see it was 600 and $89,000, and the OPEX you have to pay more or less year by year. So the most of the capex was obviously the product and the external provides suppliers. The economical proposal from our side was, okay, if you are gonna get more or less 80% of the energy cost, we can share I'm gonna take one part of that savings to recover my investment. After that, we can share the rest of the savings. So the client in this case, it was EB InBev, is gonna get savings from first year, not very much, but they are gonna renovate all the installations, all the lighting installations without any investment, and they are gonna save from the first day some money. So you have to see all the benefits of this kind of contract, because you don't have the financial part, but you are gonna renovate your plant, and also you are gonna get a little bit money from the savings. And after the period of the contract, in this case it was 5 years, all the savings over $2,000 is gonna be in your account. So you can see the benefits. This is an explanation, very simple, of how it was, the share of the savings, a little bit part for the investor, and a little bit for the client. And you can see in our side the tier, because the WACC of Mexico was 7.5 in that moment, but the tier of the projects. So from the financial eyes, is a very good investment for 5 years. I have to mention also, if you include the CAE system that is now run away in Spain, you are gonna recover also in the first day a part of the investment. In this case, it was more or less the 34%. So in a part of all the ESCO contract, you can include the CAE's product in the contract. Instead of 5 years, maybe you only need 3 years just to recuperate your investment. And in 3 years, the client get the full installation and the full savings. So now, for example, in countries like France, Italy, or Spain, you have an opportunity to make it better, to make it more profit. And I think from my side, Stavros, this is the case, and that's all.
Thank you very, very much, Javier, and thank you for remaining in the time. Pretty impressive example, as we saw. It was explicitly mentioned everything that I presented in a more real way. The case study was really impressive to see how the real finance via the utilization of an ESCO is working. Now I would like to give the floor to Engrin and to Tommaso Ferrucci. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Which Engrin is really connected with one of the pilots that we're having from the CLR2. And let's see what he has to present to us. Tommaso, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Are you able to hear me correctly?
Pretty good.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, for what is concerning green, we are a team of qualified professionals pursuing innovative and sustainable solutions. We are experts in strategic advisory, planning, executing, managing, and monitoring profit and non-profit high-impact projects with a focus on cutting-edge technology and business model. The goal of course, of our company is to establish renewable energy sources in different countries since 2018, which was the year where Green was established. And since that year, we are working as a startup in Italy and also right now in Africa. We are working a diversified network with different countries of expertise, from the Sub-Saharan Africa to the South America, and even also in Europe with the recent projects in Italy and with European life and right projects. And Green right now is supporting public administration and industry in the energy transition, focusing mostly in Italy on renewable energy community, because our expertise embrace energy, civil and environmental engineering, as well as finance and operating management, both at project and strategic level in the areas of intervention with high socioeconomic impact. You can see that from the different perspective, we have worked with sustainable housing, rural development, water and sanitation projects in Africa, as well as off-grid energy system and clean energy transition. For what concerns the Italian focus, I just have to say that right now the different deployment level of the renewable energy community is pretty low. We have seen that less than 3,000 renewable energy community has been registered, but we have a very low power. We state that around 53 megawatt has been registered in the whole Italian country. Is not so much, but we are at the beginning of this new energy transition, and we are part of this innovative solution for the country. We have to say also that the different configuration are mostly established in the north of Italy, whereas in the center and the south there is a low frequency of renewable energy community. The goal of the NIEC, the National Resilience Plan, is going to cover more than 2 gigawatts of power, but of course this is only an hypothetical goal, because right now we are way below the goal of the Ministry of Environment. From our technical experience, we have worked with the renewable energy community of Guardabosone and Postra, that we are going to present here a little bit shorter. With both of them, we have developed a renewable energy community, a citizen-driven renewable energy community with the municipality, in order to assist the different partners and, let's say, stakeholders of the territory, in order to understand their needs and to understand the feasibility of a renewable energy community within the municipality, with the goal to increase the renewable energy production and reducing energy poverty. We also want to say that right now we are deploying different energy community all around Italy, and we hope that with the future citizen-led renovation phase 3 that has been already stated, we could also participate in future calls with other pilots. The role of Green in the municipalities is multiple. We saw that since the first years we created the renewable energy community, we have the municipality to deploy the best strategy in order to increase the number of participants and the number of public plants installed. And in the latest year, we have helped both the municipality, the local authority, to build the first renewable power plants, and at the same time, we have increased the number of citizens that are really keen to pursue the energy transition, employing and deploying their private photovoltaic plants. This is a small step for a community such as this. We state that they are very small communities in the Alps, close to the France border, and we say that it is very difficult to increase the penetration of renewable without a citizen-led initiative, because we see that in this scattered location there are no big spaces for increase the penetration of renewable and create power plants. Whereas in this context, we need to employ very small power plants led by citizens. Another topic that we would like to cover is our experience in these activities. We would like to state first the barriers that we have encountered during these 3 years of assistance. First, we would like to state that the technical assistance that has been provided by Green, also together with the help of Citizen-led Renovation, is an absence of a structural funds, because we see that the different initiative that has been promoted by the national authorities in Italy doesn't focus on technical assistance, but only on the financing part. This is a critical reason, because we need also to understand the potential of other renewable energy sources that are more, let's say, technical, they need more technical requirements, for example, biomass and hydroelectric power plants. And at the same time, we saw that the procedure for including the new public administration is a very complex process, where we follow different uncertainties from the design, where we are not always able to adopt some surfaces because there are delays, there are limits on the installation, there are bureaucratic delays due also to the legislation that has been placed in 2024. And also, we also need to say that the monitoring platform that has been deployed in the recent years are not enough. And the data sharing outside the distribution system operator is not well permitted. Another point that we would like to state is the different strategies and solutions we have encountered to surpass the problem, the barriers, and to find new solution to employ and deploy the renewable energy community. I think that the most important one is skill building. So understand the needs for the legal, the administrative, and different skills required for the public administration and the citizen-led initiative that need to be trained, needs to be involved in the development of the building skills, because these are very critical part in order to let the community be their own manager in a future where the community should last 20, 30 years. At the same time, we found out that the private finance is not yet active because the tax legislation is still not defined. And at the same time, there are constraints on the electricity grid that limits the distribution and decrease of renewable energy solution, mainly photovoltaics. At the same time, we say that the dynamic design, where multiple users get inside and get out from the community, are a very critical point, because we can create different scenarios, different opportunities for productive uses, but at the same time, we need to be sure that the stakeholders are actively involved and actively part of the community. I also would like to stay 1 minute more to state that there is going to be a new project for Posto Gardabosone that will enlarge the geographical scale of the renewable energy community. And this project will enlarge until 4 primary cabins that are part of the municipality led by the mountain communities, that is composed of 24 municipalities, with the goal to increase the potential of photovoltaics, increase the potential of hydroelectric penetration into the region, and understand also how we could try to build this renewable energy community that is going to be a territorial entity, and how we can provide the support, the technical support, and at the same time, the financial request in order to provide the fundings for the first plant. I really thank you all for your attention, and if you have any doubts, don't hesitate to ask. Thank you so much again.
Thank you very, very much, Tommaso. As I mentioned, and in the chat, the example that Tommaso mentioned, Recco Frosto and Guardabosone in Italy, is one of the pilots that the citizen-led renovation phase 2 is now assisting in order to proceed with their energy renovations. Now, before passing the floor to Jan Bormans, our coordinator, to moderate us in the panel, I would like to share with you the platform that we are having for exchange, together with our website, in order to keep up with all the updates. And lastly, if you want, you can for sure subscribe to our newsletter with bi-monthly updates from our pilots, and to know all about the relevant news. As I said, everything is going to be shared with you, so all these slides in order to register to our websites, platforms, and the newsletter will be shared with you after the webinar. Jan, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. I want to share 1 second a slide with an overview of the panel. So give me a second to make sure that this works, and it should be coming your way. Okay, so I am Jan from Tinky, and I'm very happy to moderate this panel discussion on CLR and ESCOs. We'll have 3 parts today. We are in one way looking back, so we are going to look at CLR1. We will also look at the present situation on the relation between CLR and ESCOs, and finally we look back at we will look at the future of citizen-led renovation. So I think you agree that this is an exciting topic to discuss, and we also have excellent experts to discuss this with, namely Julien Tamy from the European Commission, Christophe Moulin from CINEA, Sofia Natalia Boemi that you already saw from the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, Andreas Turk from Uranium Research, Stavros Spiridiakos from IECP. And so I also would like to remind you that you can ask your questions in the chat, and because this is a panel discussion, maybe also add to whom you are asking the questions so that we can address your questions in the Q&A after this panel discussions. So I would like to move now into the heat of the discussion, where we are going to reflect on CLR1 and its impacts. And I think Stavros, you are the first one I would like to ask this question to. So based on the findings of CLR1, to what extent have energy communities demonstrate institutional and financial autonomy in leading their own renovation projects? So I look forward to your insights.
Thank you very, very much, Jan. It's good to mention that I am really connected, I would like to say, with the citizen-led renovation phase 1. I was one out of the 4 members that were actively assisting the energy communities. In fact, I was the single point of contact, the single person of contact for the ESCOs, the energy community Bulgaria. Based on the findings that we have from the citizen-led renovation phase 1, all the energy communities that we have supported have demonstrated really strong institutional autonomy, I would like to say, in order to lead their own renovation projects. They have shown, I would say, remarkable self-organizational and governance capacities in setting up and managing their own renovation projects. In fact, all of the pilots, Energent, TripleSec, Copernico, and ESCO, established a governance framework and clear leadership structure in order to ensure efficiency execution, project execution. Apart from that, all these communities, I believe that it is good to say that they have successfully mobilized all the local actors, including homeowners, municipalities, and both private sectors and partners. And despite all the strong governance and greater barriers that they persisted, they tried to overcome them and to deal with them. In some cases, energy communities struggled to access persisting processes and navigate national policies, as the case in Bulgaria. However, regarding the financial autonomy, I will not be that that positive, I would say. While energy of communities that we have assisted in the citizen-led renovation has really demonstrated an impressive institutional strength, financial dependency remains to be a critical hurdle. It is a highlight to say that energy communities lack dedicated financial support mechanisms such as a strong long-term, as we saw it needs like 5 to 20 years to get the initial fund back, revolving funds, or some structured loans tailored to citizen-led renovation initiatives. Additionally, apart from that, in the project, we saw, for example, in Copernico, that there are really some alternative financial models like the one-stop shop that was established, which really assisted and provided the structured financial advisory service and trainings to the energy community in order to navigate through this really difficult financial processes. It's good to say that I believe that advocating for a dedicated financial support mechanism will be a solution to this one. For example, to push the governments and the European Union and the nations, the member states, to establish tailored financial supports for citizen-led renovations, and especially for communities, as they are really the ones who are having the capacity, the expertise to do a lot of massive renovations together. And that's why we have to trust them. For sure, social acceptability is always a key part to this one in order to ensure all this part. In summary, really fast, in the citizen-led renovation, phase 1 has really proven that energy communities can organize, lead, and execute citizen-led renovation project institutionally, of course, but not full autonomy with financial sustainable issues that needs to be addressed, not in all cases, but in most of them, through policy interventions, probably through innovative funding, and of course through inclusive support mechanisms like the citizen-led initiative, the phase 2, the phase 3 that are coming. Thank you.
Okay, Stavros, thank you for these insights. I think indeed, so CLR1 was a bit like Julien Tamy explained, it was a bit a sandbox or a test case to explore what worked and didn't work. And in this context, then I would like to go to our second speaker, Andreas Sturk, to ask indeed so about what are the primary barriers that you think we encountered or that the pilots encountered in the CLR1 initiative. So if you could elaborate on that, Andreas, please take the floor.
Hello, you can hear me, yes. Before I speak about barriers and problems, I would still like to highlight the big benefits of CLR. And I think what was not mentioned today is trust. So there's a higher trust if support is provided by non-profit voluntary actors. And in some countries, like we saw in Bulgaria, there's a distrust towards classical renovation companies or even state institutions. And energy communities can create trust. They have the ability to build on existing relationships, and they're familiar with local situation, not only from a technical perspective, but cultural, the building characteristics. Having said this, I would like to add on what Julien said in the beginning. Energy communities normally only include educated, wealthy segments of the population. And this is not a problem of CLR. It's a problem of the energy community concept that has a very narrow scope regarding societal groups. We believe that CLR needs more than one entry point. Next to energy communities as main concept, housing associations, existing structures that exist maybe in some countries since decades. For example, Estonia has a long history of housing associations, could be an alternative entry point, or social housing that could emerge towards energy communities on the long term. So energy communities could be the starting point, but also could be the end point. The second lesson, the target group of CLR is not necessarily the target group of energy communities. In Austria, we have 2,000 energy communities. Most of them are in the countryside and not in the cities where you have multi-apartment buildings that need renovation. We have a general problem of deployment of energy communities in a dense environment. And we need to understand the reasons, the legal reasons, the cultural societal reasons to increase the overlap between CLR and energy communities. Legal and liability concerns were already mentioned. And as Stavros mentioned, it would be beneficial to have subsidies for CLR. but we have to be careful who to subsidize. Not again the wealthy educated ones, but those that cannot, that have difficulties to be part of the game. We heard about financing constraints. Small initiatives have difficulties to get loans, but also there's a grant instability. And for this reason, I liked a lot the Hungarian example where a community ESCO builds their own internal renovation fund. This can mitigate against external instabilities. Finally, we saw that community engagement is really important, but it can also take a lot of time and effort. It's not a given that a community is super engaged. Some are, some aren't. And my last comment is about the technical quality. We saw in CLR 1, in some cases, it can be very high because the community knows so much about the technical details in the district. On the other hand, energy communities may not have the technical skills and need to involve external or technical experts at a very early stage. These are some of my key takeaways on opportunities, barriers, and constraints.
Hey, Andreas, I think this was very insightful. I also think that indeed we had the richness to have very different pilots in CLR1, so which allows us to look at these different both opportunities as well as potential problems. So thank you both. So now I would like, in fact, to move to Julien Attami and Christophe Millin. So I see Julien. I don't see yet Christophe, but I guess he will appear soon on my screen. So it's a bit looking at the situation of today. So we had in the previous presentations, we heard a lot about CLR, but we also heard a lot about ESCOs. So maybe a first discussion topic is, how can they work together according to you? Do you see perceived strengths of both or complementarities, or in the worst case, overlap of competition? So maybe, Julien, I will give first the floor to you.
Thanks, Jan. Indeed, and I also welcome I see Christophe, who is also online, who has experience as a CINEA, manages a lot of projects on the ground. From my side, from my personal view and standpoint, I would say that I don't see any competition in these roles. As we have seen with all presentations, CLR and ESCO are also broad concepts. It's as Stavros mentioned, you don't have an ESCO is not necessarily something with typically defined, which is also a strength, and the same for CLR. So, in a sense that ESCO offer services that probably energy communities can provide, CLR entities can provide. So in a sense, there is no competition. On the contrary, it could be another kind of service that CLR would offer to their members. But maybe Christophe would like to complement with more of his experience on this topic.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. I mean, maybe I don't know if I have an answer, but maybe I can help clarify the question. Also coming back a little on the definitions, the first point is that CLR and ESCO are private actors operating on a private market. So as long as they find an agreement and collaborate that is beneficial for both parties, there are many different configurations that are possible. And there's no such thing as optimal configuration between consenting adults that perfectly fine. Many different options are possible, and also to remind that CLR and ESCOs are mentioned in EU laws, but they are not legal status. So behind these terms, you can have also a variety of different legal entities. And this will have a lot of consequences also on the rest of our discussion on the possible business model and possible governance of these entities, depending on the legal status that is chosen. There can be many different things. I think what was important in our discussion, I think today we used interchangeably CLR and energy community. Maybe it's a bit of a mistake because it's not exactly the same. And when we started this initiative, the CLR was not necessarily focused on energy communities. And the other way around, an energy community is not necessarily a CLR. And you can very well have an energy community focused on energy production and not doing at all energy renovation. So I think also it's important to remind that and the consequences of that. On the what do we expect still from CLR is really much this this trust aspect, the fact that working with your neighbors and your peers, there is maybe less defiance or more trust towards the services that are provided. Also, maybe more flexibility compared to other models of, let's say, for instance, public support that could be provided from public authorities that intervene with some restriction because they are publicly funded. In the case of a private actor working on a private market, the restrictions are different. And what we expect also is a long-lasting effect. So when you look at the CLR, you could also expect that they evolve. So they provide a set of services at the beginning, they learn, and then they replicate, and then they expand, or maybe they shrink also because some people that were driving forces at the beginning just left. So these are not static entities. Also, that things it's important to remind, and the scope of their intervention very much depend on their appetite and their maturity also. On the ESCO side, I was happy to I mean, the least that you can say is that it is not a new concept. Huh? It's been around for a very long time. I mean, it was very popular in the 80s in the industry sector following the oil crisis, and then became a little less popular in the 90s with very low energy prices. Became very popular again 20 years ago with the Energy Efficiency Directive in 2006, and was very strongly promoted by the EU for the past 20 years. But if that was a perfect solution to our problems, then I think it would have taken off by now. And if it hasn't taken off, it's maybe because there are also difficulties with this model. I mean, on the definition of an ESCO, it is also very open, and it is also not a legal status. You can have very different entities providing ESCO services. We very often assume that an ESCO is a private for-profit company, but we have a number of examples of public ESCOs. We also sometimes consider that the ESCO is providing, be providing energy within the package, but many don't provide energy, and they simply provide energy savings and intervention of reducing energy, not including the energy. Many also consider that an ESCO should provide financing solutions, but actually the vast majority of ESCOs do not provide financing solutions. And in any case, in the rentals, in the housing sector, it's very likely that the financial package an ESCO could provide would be much less interesting than a retail bank offer, for instance. And then what is very specific and interesting in the ESCO model is the guarantee on the quality of the work. But this does not necessarily mean that you have a monitoring of savings, comparison with the baseline, and financial compensation in case there is no there is a lack of performance. You can very well also consider much simpler models where you provide an intrinsic energy performance guarantee. So simply a guarantee of quality at the reception of work without all the monitoring and compensation that again in the housing sector is probably not a good option. So in a nutshell, ESCO is probably interesting in sectors where you have large energy efficiency potential and also high financing cost, or where the financing is dedicated to other things. So very typically in the industry sector, it works very well. I'm much less convinced in the housing sector, except if you consider that an ESCO is simply a construction company providing a quality on the work that is done, and that's perfectly fine. So in terms of, and also to mention that therefore citizen-led renovation and energy community could very well be also an ESCO. So it's not necessarily two different things. Depending on how it's done, it could very well be. And so what I assume is that, so I don't provide an answer to your question actually, but the best collaboration would be whatever makes more sense in the local context. What is probable is that the CLR will take over some of the work that could have been performed by an ESCO, especially at the initial preparatory phases, doing the audits or preparing the work. But what is also likely is that the CLR at one point will stop, don't have the skill to, for instance, perform the renovation work, and will have to call for a construction company to perform this. So in a sense, you could see the ESCO and the CLR as the competitors in the initial stages, but then they will create a project and a market that would not have existed without the CLR. So in that case, they would create activity for their competitors, ESCO. I like the neologism called co-petition, cooperative competition, because in the end, that's what it is. And especially if we go beyond this, the dichotomy that we established for these webinars between CLR and ESCO, and introduce other actors like public authorities or one-stop shops or energy agencies, and we see that there is a whole ecosystem of structures that could be very well working together.
Great, Christophe, thank you very much. It was a very extensive answer. I remember, I mean, some points from your, is that I think indeed you pointed out very rightly that CLR is not necessarily a one-on-one mapping to energy communities. That's completely correct. It's important to underline that. The trust of the energy communities, this aspect, the trust of CLR is important. But I think that also we can agree that just being the neighbors, yeah, that's the initial trust, but then you need to build trust because of you're giving quality work. And I think this fact that you have some CLR pilots that move towards being ESCOs, I think we have seen this in CLR1, where there is one pilot which is starting to look a little bit like doing ESCO activities. So given time, I would like to quickly go back to Julien to know if he has any final thoughts on business models for either CLRs or ESCOs to conclude our session, where we have a little bit to look at the timing of this discussion. So Julien.
No, thanks, Jan. No, to be honest, I don't have. I really look forward also these initiatives and to know, because I worked less with projects at that time, so I really would like to see to test these initiatives and to see if there are business models. Sustainable business model would be another topic. I don't know if you Christophe, you have experience of where this has worked, or you also look forward our CLR experiences to test this on the ground.
I do have some elements also on this, but it's still very much in the making. I mean, they have to establish their models and viability. I think it's important for that to really distinguish the role of the homeowners as member of the CLR and homeowners as a recipient of the services. This is very different role, and I think it's important also that to focus on the status of these energy communities, because there are a number of things that will or will not be possible depending on the legal status that you will use. You may consider that, for instance, the CLR will receive at the beginning some free work from its member, dedicating time basically to the CLR. You can also imagine that the members will dedicate some financial resources to buy some equipment and so on. And depending on the status, and these will have a different value. It can be considered as equity in a company, for instance, and then also when looking at the services that are provided, either charge the services to the homeowners, or you consider that the homeowners and the members are the same thing, and then you offset with the contribution they have made to the CLR. And I think you enter really in something you should look carefully, because, for instance, if you are an association, you cannot distribute your benefit to your members. Huh? So your status will very much depend. Will very much put conditions on your actual business model, and I could say much more, but I think I will stop there.
Yeah, exactly. Sake of time, I think it's extremely interesting, and I like the passion that I think we all share around this table here. I would like to remind the participants that they can ask their questions to the speakers, to the panel members in the chat. So let's maybe move on, because we also have to look to the future. So we have to look at our strategic outlook. What's the future of civil renovation in the European energy market? And there I would like to give again the floor to Andreas to do this forward look based on your expertise. How do you see CLR as an important player for energy efficient building renovation? So please, Andreas, take the floor.
Andreas here. The role of CLR will be very different in different countries. It depends on the building stock. It depends on whether countries have a history on cooperative approaches. So it needs to be very tailored and contextualized. And I think most member states have now transposed the directives, but I think in the update of the national energy laws, the definition should be more comprehensive. So far, energy communities are mostly PV communities, but heating and renovation, other activities are missed out. And I think we need in the future more comprehensive approaches also in the national regulations. This is my key takeaway.
Okay, thank you so much. And so finally, I would like to give the floor to Sophia and Natalia with this outlook and the question on should future CLR initiatives be integrated with broader EU climate and energy strategies, or should they be more developed as independent and localized solutions? So, Sophia, I look forward to your insights.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. In an ideal world, I think it could act like independent localized solutions, but as we can see the current moment, I think that future citizen-led innovation initiatives should be integrated within the broader EU climate and energy strategies, because although localized solutions are crucial for addressing specific regional needs and ensuring that the diverse needs of EU citizens are met, integrating citizen-led innovations initiatives within a broader EU climate and energy strategies provide a much more powerful and effective framework for success. So creating that kind of synergies like the CLR, which is in the right process, I think that having it under a wider umbrella, I think that we can leverage more funding and support. We can promote best practices like we have seen today, and we can promote some knowledge sharing. Also, we can have some regulatory and technical supports, like also we have done today, and maybe you will do in similar seminars, webinars. And finally, we can amplify any kind of social and economic impact. By mentioning impact, I will also like to include to create a cross-border cooperation and a greater impact to any kind of the society levels. So I think that initiatives like this one and like the forthcoming ones for the joint renovation, the neighborhood approach, and the one-stop shop for CLR, I think that they will help all those kind of initiatives mature, and we will see greater examples and good practices in the near future.
Okay, thank you. So it's a clear motivation for integration, and I understand where you're coming from. I also think we are facing huge challenges in an uncertain world. I think it has been demonstrated today in the previous presentations, but also in this panel that CLR is, I think, one of the approaches with a lot of potential. And we also discussed that this is a pipeline. So we finished CLR1, we upscaled it to CLR2, and finally now the upscaling to CLR3 is busy, and it's still, let's say, also a test, a sandbox to see what works well, and every phase builds on the previous one. So I would like to follow Stavros in encouraging you to subscribe to our newsletter, go to the website so that you keep updated on the exciting things we do. I'm just looking now at the participants. If there are any questions, please put it in the chat. And if questions don't come now or later, you can always mail us and we will try to answer them. So I'm looking both at the chat as to the hands. No questions. I think it was also a tsunami of information, so maybe you have to digest it a bit. Thank you for all panel members for your participation, for your energy, for your insights. I think it was really exciting. And I would like to also thank Stavros for organizing this. And I'm giving you, Stavros, the last word to conclude this exciting afternoon.
Thank you very, very much, Jan. At least based on the answers and the responses I am seeing in the chat, I believe that at least we tried to offer clear insights and clear guidelines on what the European Commission and in general the energy communities are going to deal with. And we have provided them with clear instructions regarding the CLR, potential collaboration later on, following, of course, Julian mentioned that a call will regarding enablers will soon be open. We encourage everyone to participate in this one. And yeah, thank you very, very much, everyone, for attending this with this webinar. As I said, we are going to share with you all the materials. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact us either directly on the emails or via the websites or in our exchanging platform. Thank you very, very much.